Hello, hello, back again with part 7 of Resident Evil 3 Remake. And earlier today, we continued our foray into the hospital, back playing as Jill, after having first explored the place as Carlos. And I backtracked, got all the stuff that I missed, including the Magnum, which was super late into the game. I really wish it had been in the game earlier, but whatever. It was just in time for the hunters, and it's, of course, like how the Magnum was useful against the Lickers in 2, so too is it against the hunters in this game. And so we went through the forbidden door that none of the hospital staff was meant to go in, and, yeah, they removed, the clock tower was removed, the park was removed, and yep, the dead factory disposal area is most certainly also removed. And we ended up getting fast forwarded to the underground warehouse, which in turn connects to the second Nest lab, which we're now in. And poor Tyrell, he bit the dust because Nemesis came back in his second form, and now so he's back, and we're in what I presume to be the final level of the game, because just about every Resident Evil game ends with a super secret lab somewhere. So, let's see what puzzle we get this time, if there is any. Jill has infiltrated Nest 2, an Umbrella facility located beneath Raccoon City, in hopes of preventing the destruction of Raccoon City. There's pretty much not much to save at this point. Everyone's been monsterfied. Sheer, and I couldn't finish what the game read because it sped through everything. Now I got 3 spaces left, but I wanted to pack as much heat as possible because I don't know what to expect. That door is locked because over there is locked because of a code. Unlocked. Well, certainly shiny, just like it was in the last game. Uh-oh. That's blocked.
A partial lockdown is in effect. Employees are advised to carry an oversized kit until evacuation is complete.
Shit. Ah, wrong weapon. Wrong weapon. I do not want to waste magnums on zombies. At all. I'm reserving that for the big shit. Speaking of, well, I don't want to waste ammo unsealing boxes, so maybe I should bring the knife just in case. I know I had the handgun equipped. I guess I just unintentionally equipped it by accident. I love how the grenade launcher and the shotgun don't stay on her back. One of them has to disappear right up her ass.
Due to a state of emergency, employees are advised to carry an oversized kit at all times until evacuation is complete.
I pressed the goddamn button. The dodge button is so fucking off. Like, I pressed it, I pressed it, I pressed it. Doesn't work. Press it right when the zombie goes to attack. It doesn't work. It seems to be more in tune for Carlos. Like, I go around trying to use it with him. He works mostly fine. I use it with Jill. Nothing happens. It's pissing me off. Wasted ammo. I don't know why I'm bothering this, but I am. I love how I have the handgun at its most powerful form, and it still takes like 5 shots to kill a zombie's head. I really hate the random headshots in this game. And the last game. They need to do away with that. It was fine. The headshots were fine in past games, Resident Evil 4 included. It does not need this. Okay, he's just background. Also, minor thought that just came to my head, but what's the complaint about skinny jeans on female characters? Like, I heard Razorfist make a quip about that. Like, I love you, man, but I mean, as generic as Jill's design is, her wearing skinny jeans is not really that big of an issue because, well, you get more of her form-fitting you-know-what. Same with Chloe in Uncharted Lost Legacy. And she had a huge bunda in that game. And hey, show off more of it, I say. Ooh. Headshot. Glory to headshots. What was this? Isaac Graves' diary. Oh, sorry, Mr. Graves. The pay was generous, the benefits were good. Most importantly, they promised me I'd be contributing to state-of-the-art medical tech research for a university teacher stuck working in nowhere, America. It was a golden opportunity, like winning the lottery, so I went for it. I made the pitch to my family and we agreed to move here to Raccoon City. Well, hindsight is 2020 because this lab is a den of monsters who conduct cruel and barbaric experiments for the sole purpose of taking human life in the most sickening ways possible. It's messed up. The world needs to know, but every time I work up enough courage to blow the whistle, I think of Penny and Casey and immediately chicken out. Well, yeah, he doesn't want them to get killed and kidnapped or killed. if he squeaks to the police. Umbrella owns this town. There was this guy they caught trying to smuggle out company secrets. They essentially fed him to one of the betas. Fed him. I saw the whole thing. I got my wife and daughter into this. I just need to do my job, do as I'm told, for their sake. But let this be a testament that I do have a conscience and that I've learned my lesson. You should have packed up and left town while you could, buddy. Really should have. Well. Got more handgun ammo on me.
Employees are advised to carry an override key at all times until evacuation is complete. A partial lockdown is suspected. Employees are advised to carry an override key at all times until evacuation is complete.
Okay, he's dead. Hey. This does... Music's a little ramped up.
To begin vaccine synthesis, place the materials in the chamber.
Ah, so this is what they did with the vaccine puzzle, I think.
Synthesis? I have to make it myself? Alright, gotta figure this out.
Okay, so they took the vaccine synthesis from Carlos's half of the story and moved it for Jill. Essay on vaccine synthesis. On the roles of antigens and adjuvants in vaccine synthesis, Dr. Nathaniel Bard, Chief Researcher, Spencer Memorial Hospital. To most efficiently synthesize a vaccine, both an antigen and an adjuvant are required. More chemistry puzzles. I hate chemistry puzzles. The antigen produces an immune response, while the adjuvant increases the effects of such responses, leading to increased antibody production. By combining samples of these two ingredients, one can create a potent vaccine base. By processing this vaccine base with our proprietary equipment, a larger batch of vaccine can be created with astonishing ease. What's more, my latest antigen and adjuvant samples yield unprecedented rates of antibody production, producing more than 1,000 times the yield of traditional materials. This not only makes it an effective vaccine, but also a potential way to eliminating existing infections. Shit. Dead. Dead.
Override key successfully generated.
What have we here?
Override key removed.
Flash drive. Override key, an emergency security key used in Nest 2, allows employees to override security protocols in the event of emergency evacuation. Alrighty. Okay, we don't do like what we did with the police chief's badge. We just leave it the way it is. Because the police chief badge had like a hidden USB inside of it.
Until evacuation is complete.
Okay, we can't go over there, but we do have to go back here in order to go through the door. And we now have our little password. Hey, you back. What was for dinner? I made tacos. Beef tacos, specifically. Okay, so now we can go in there. So there is a puzzle, just not the one that I thought we would end up with. Meantime, let me do away with this. Store this. Yummy indeed. Okay, we got high grade, regular. I could make more shotguns, but I think I'd rather save up. I'd rather save them in case I run into any more high grades for the Magnum, because that is probably like the most useful. Well, that the shotgun is useful too, but I think but for stuff like hunters and one headshot kills for tougher foes, I think the Magnum is the best call. And I don't want to go repeating trying to take down those two pitiful zombies again, so I'm saving again.
Employees are advised to carry an override key at all times until evacuation is complete.
Override complete.
Aye.
Due to a state of emergency,
So much. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
employees are advised to carry an override key at all times until
Restart it. Restart it. Wasted ammo. Got hit. I'm right there anyway. Might as well. Just when I think I'm clear, he's right there.
Override complete.
Okay, where are you bastard?
a partial lockdown is effective. Employees are advised to carry an override key at all times.
Ugh, wasted ammo, wasted ammo. I hate how they move like all over the place. It's like I shoot them right when I have them. Nope. Dodge. What are you, freaking Naruto? Hold still. I'm being OCD with zombies. Oh my god.
Override complete.
Due to a state of emergency, a partial lockdown is effective. Employees are advised to carry an override key at all times until evacuation is complete.
Kablooey. Uh-oh. Body bags? Oh, it's one of these things. Normally, I would save this for hunters, but these are so tankish that I might as well use it. Fuck you. Yeah, yeah. The first, yeah, I faced these things back in the warehouse, and it took like a whole magazine, maybe two, just to. It took so many headshots. So you know, might as well use the Magnum. Finish them off. Explosive A. Don't have enough to make acid rounds. Acid rounds work very well against those things. I haven't tried flame rounds yet, but heh. This goes up. They're just packing and storing them. Don't trust it. Scientist's dying message. It's happened. Our worst case scenario. The T-virus has somehow leaked. Under orders from Dr. Bard, I'm to manufacture mass quantities of the vaccine. I've prepared a culture of the T-virus antigen. Now I just need to combine it with an adjuvant to enhance its effects, and I should be able to produce enough vaccine to save all the surviving citizens. Yeah, all two of them. Yeah, well, well, that's a partial lie. There were at least a few. There was Leon, Claire, and Sherry, plus Jill and Carlos in the original version of the game, and Barry Burton. Chris has already left. Who else? Who else? And there was like the main cast of what, 5 or 6 people in the Resident Evil Outbreak games, Files 1 and 2. So there was about a good handfuls worth. Adjuvant samples are stored in the incubation lab. Test subjects are already wandering the halls, but I'd rather find a way to get some samples while this culture is maturing. If I don't make it back, please complete the synthesis process. Try to find a way to stop this outbreak. It's the least we can do, after setting these horrifying events in motion. Acid rounds. I definitely need those. Machinery room. Incubation lab is upstairs. Yeah, those byproduct zombies are weak to acid rounds, last I checked. Let me get rid of these. Get the flame rounds just in case. In case any hunter gammas are wandering around.
This must be what powers it.
Open it wide.
Insufficient power. Please activate auxiliary power.
Probably have to push that in there. Before I do, what's up here? The lab. Lab 1. Weapon reauthorization request. Dear Dr. Emerson, I would like to formally request that the weaponry normally reserved for the bioweapon synthesis team be made available for any employees interfacing with the admission and dismissal of test subjects. These test subjects do not present the same levels of danger as our bioweapon products, but I believe that this weaponry authorization is advisable as outlined below. Recently, some test subjects have developed a new mutation granting them very high regrowth abilities. Our team refers to these experiments to these specimens as pale heads. Yeah, that's what we've been facing. So what, are they like a spin on the Crimson Heads from the original first game? Because in the remake of the first game, there were certain zombies where if they still had their heads attached and they came back to life, they grew more powerful and their heads were all bloody, hence the name Crimson Heads. I don't know if these were in the original... I can't remember if these were in the original version of Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, but or not, but I wouldn't. It wouldn't be out of the. I can't. But it wouldn't. I wouldn't be surprised. Our team refers to these specimens as paleheads. They have been appearing with regularity, but the specific cause has not yet been determined. The astonishing rate at which these paleheads regenerate makes it difficult to deliver a lethal blow with standard weaponry. Yeah, the first one, I kept hitting him with the pistol, and he just wouldn't stop until I restarted and used an acid round on him. If any sort of system failure were to occur within our facility, we would be woefully underprepared to defend ourselves. For this reason, I would like to request that high-powered weaponry capable of subduing the paleheads be issued to all of our employees working in shipping and processing. This will ensure that in the event of an emergency, we will be able to quickly eliminate the threat, evacuate safely. Thank you very much for your condolences. Shipping and Processing Manager Gabrielle Reed. What's this? Culture sample. Ah!
Oh, an antigen sample. I'll definitely need this for the vaccine.
Nice to see they got the liquid physics in this right. I got to give Capcom credit where due. Their level of detail in the RE engine is nigh immaculate. Oh, you. Wanted to see how many headshots he could take, but he kept regenerating, so I just used the Magnum. High-powered. What's with the piano? Well, it's a good piano. Can't complain about that. That's another positive I can give RE3 Remake. There's more music in this than the remake of 2. If you wanted more music in 2, you had to like use the classic soundtrack in the deluxe edition, which I think they made available after sometime after the release. Now that was quite the workout, wasn't it? Whoa. It's a whole mass production line. Ugh. There's hunters. And whatever
These
the...
are tyrants.
Yeah, that's what I thought. They looked like it.
Jesus. Is this where they're made?
Yeah, the original tyrant from the first game was in the underground lab. This is where the mass production models are kept. And Mr. X, yeah, he's a tyrant. Likely came from these things. Yeah, they even kind of look like Mr. X in the face, like that one. And then you have Nemesis, who's a special case because he has the Nemesis parasite. Hunters and tyrants. I have no idea what's in these. Love the lab soundtrack. Yeah, Mr. X is a tyrant too, just a very heavily mutated one because of the Nemesis parasite in his brain. I'm gonna save again just in case. Wait a minute. Wrong way. Tyrants and betas. Yeesh. Shit.
Out of the way!
Damn it. I wish I had more hand grenades, but I'm fresh out. You know what? Where's the mines? I either want explosives or mines. Wait, what's this? A red herb? How did I miss that? Good. Whoa, 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 whoa. I knew I heard something walking. Explosive grade again. Oh shit. What's this? Expression of concern, Senior Fellow Dr. Frankel. Please allow me to send my heartfelt congratulations to you and your colleagues at Umbrella Europe for completing Nemesis, a truly remarkable achievement in the field of bioweapons research. Introducing a parasitic organism into a tyrant's brain to gain external control of it? How can I not marvel at such a wild idea? However, from a medical perspective, I must emphatically state my disapproval of this shift away from established umbrella policy by turning to the use of parasites who are setting a dangerous precedent. Viruses can be kept in check. I believe an effective vaccine can be developed for any virus on Earth, with abundant funding and a bounty of samples, of course. Can you say the same for parasites, however? Doctors have tried in vain to develop a vaccine for malaria. Parasites like Plasmodium are far more genetically complex than the T-virus, and to think they will submit to control is utter folly. Perhaps in your country, consumers are willing to buy automobiles with no brakes, but here in America, they know better. Damn straight. Then again, I recall you have a degree in economics, so no doubt you've already devised a brilliant marketing strategy to win over the naysayers. I look forward to your talk at the forum in Berlin next month. In the meantime, I shall be exploring medical solutions to this hubristic problem you foisted on us. Sincerely, Nathaniel Bard, PhD.
So it's called the Nemesis.
I'm splattered in blood. So much blood that the character model can't take all of it. Like, what are these, fetuses? Or are they hearts? I think they're feet. I don't know. Liquid-filled test tube.
An adjuvant sample. These are combined with antigens to increase immune system response.
Yup. Boost production of antibodies when combined with an antigen used to synthesize the vaccine. Nice blue color to it. Reminds me of what do you call it? Coolant in cars. Vaccine. So yeah, the Crimson Heads, they're just very resilient and take a lot of bullets to kill, from what I remember. But these guys, they regenerate, so you need a bigger bullet to put them down. The shotgun wasn't gonna work, the pistol wasn't working. Gotta go for the Magnum and grenades. Go! I pressed the button. I pressed the button. Oh no, run away, run away, run away. I couldn't press the button. I tried pressing the button, it wouldn't work. Fucking game. I press the dodge button, it doesn't work. I press it again, I get hit anyway. This fucking thing sucks. Awful. Hey. too, Dad. Okay. You know what? I'll use the mines and save the explosives for the hunters. Wait, was this? Shipping notice. Cargo Nemesis. Shipping route JFK to RC. Shipping date September 1st, 1998. Shipping type Class 1 hazardous materials. Additional notes: all transit within the United States is to be made via helicopter to extreme care during takeoff and landings, as shock to the parcel may potentially lead to self-activation. We here at the European branch are excited to hear your thoughts and evaluation of this newest prototype, and are pleased to offer this specimen to you for testing. It's been through numerous trials and possesses incredible destructive power, so please exercise extreme caution when using it. Lead developer Dr. Herman Frankel. Okay. I should have known something was gonna burst out of the tanks. I just knew it. I should have known it. It's like horror game 101. If it's in a container somewhere, it's gonna break out at some point. Fuck. Yes. Oh shit. Frickin'. Fucking. I'm having a lot of trouble here, Dad.
Well, it sounds like personal problem to me.
I don't know. It's just well, you know, I press a button to try and dodge a freaking move. I get hit anyway, and well, of course I get mad.
I can hear you. You don't have to yell.
Ugh. I know. Just, you know, booming voice, you know how it is. Read the document again. Get the herb again. You know what? I'm just gonna go kill the zombies over there. Or, I don't know. I don't want to encumber myself with too much stuff in my inventory. Store. Okay. So let's try this shit again. Save again. So I don't have to keep doing this all over again. And I can't outrun the hunters through the door. I gotta kill them. Because I get locked in. Here they come. Oh, wait. Ugh, almost forgot. Nemesis note again.
So it's called the Nemesis.
A, B, gunpowder.
An adjuvant sample. These are combined with antigens to increase immune system response.
Okay, let's try this again. who's gonna pop first? Oh. 3 of them. 3 fucking one of them. Fuck. Hey. Okay. Explosive A. Regular. And high grade. I think I want to save the high grade. Hey. Music's starting to pick up. Checking to make sure I didn't miss anything. I guess we don't have to do any synthesization puzzles. We just put it in here. Vaccine base. Combine. Needs to be processed. Are you kidding me? We do gotta do it. Got it. Dumb luck on my part.
Synthesizing vaccine.
Yes.
Synthesis complete. Please remove the vaccine canister.
Okay, that was way better than the Resident Evil 2 chemical puzzle. Like, way better. Uh-oh. Look out. Look out! Goddamn tentacle hentai. Oh, are you shitting me? He still doesn't give up. Holding it. Holding it. Seriously, at this point we've seen Nemesis more times in Form 2 than we've seen him in Form 1. Hey. Ah, high grade, just what I needed. Holy Jesus. Yeah, seriously, while I appreciate that Mr. X is more spaced out than that Nemesis is more spaced out than Mr. X was, I am kind of disappointed we don't see him enough in the first form, because that's kind of like what he's most known at it for being in. You know, body bag trench coat with weapons and so on and so forth. Whereas here we've seen more of him at this point in Form 2 than we have in Form 1, or at least that's what it feels like at this point. It's weird. Okay. Even balance of everything else. Alright, I think we're close to finishing the game at this point. Yeah, I much prefer that. I actually liked that vaccine puzzle. Way, way less of a headache than the damn chemistry puzzle in Resident Evil 2. I hated that one.
What in God's name is this place?
Something that shouldn't exist. Any notes? No notes. Disposal Center Protocols. This facility is to be used for the dissolution and disposal of test subjects used in Nest 2 experiments. The potent solvents used will ensure that any biological matter within the vat, living or dead, is completely dissolved and ready for disposal. Please follow all safety protocols when using the disposal center. Always confirm that no employees are in the chamber before beginning the dissolution process. Always use the regulated amount of solvent, regardless of the volume or mass being disposed of. If a test subject acts violently, do not halt the disposal process. Leave the chamber filled for at least 12 hours, then check for a complete dissolution before draining. Here's my question. Drain to where? I think we're going to be in for a fight. If that doesn't look like a boss fight, I don't know what does. Here he comes. The vaccine. Get it. Son of a bitch.
The city needs that vaccine!
More than I do. I don't think the wisdom I've been trying to impart on you is getting through. Now I know you can't put a price on life. But I'm in this business to get paid. So let's make a deal. You go down there, level the Nemesis, and I'll recall it all and sell the combat art. Put on a good show, and maybe I don't need the vaccine.
Tuh.
Agreed? Good.
Here we go again. Burn.
Jill, is that you?
Carlos?
You're okay. Let me spot for you.
Hey, buddy.
Good idea.
Wait a minute.
Watch it, you've got company.
What? Ugh, fucking zombies. Tank 2.
Number 2.
Let me try that again. The fucking zombies just ruined everything. Of course it had to be a minion boss fight. Because reasons. And because of the zombies, I completely missed hitting him. Skip it. Shot the parasite.
Jill, is that you?
Carlos?
It's the same kind of boss fight as before, just...
Watch it, you've got company.
Where?
He's hiding behind tank 1. Now, rip that fucker apart.
Gladly. Damn it!
Jill, hold on.
Ugh.
Here comes some more. He's behind number 2. Yeah.
Damn it, I missed.
Got some more incoming. Number 2. I got this. Not what I intended to hit. But I'll take it.
I tried to press it.
Here comes some more. Look out.
Hey. Yay. Damn it. Oh no. Ah, he Mortal Kombated me. He Mortal Kombated me, and it's a minion fight. I fucking hate minion fights. Seriously, first Doom Eternal, now this? Like, seriously, both games I really want to like, and what do they do? They throw in a minion boss. And you know, even though he technically has a different kind of limb, and there's a different way of getting him, it's still technically the same boss as the clock tower. They really should have left it as, like, left phase 2 for this, and done phase 1, maybe like phase 1.5 with the rocket launcher at the clock tower. And no minions. Ow. I pressed the fucking dodge button.
Jill, is that you?
Great.
Watch it, you've got company.
Of course I do.
He's hiding behind Tank 8. Now, rip that fucker apart.
Nemesis, Parasite.
Here comes some more. Number 6. I got this. Not what I intended to hit. But I'll take it.
Ay. The boss started off well, but then zombies had to come in and get involved. And of course he has an area attack, meaning I have to be like super far away from it. Ugly indeed. Very ugly indeed.
Is that you? Watch it, you've got company. He's hiding behind tank 1. Now, rip that fucker apart.
Ugh.
Here comes some more. Number 4. Yeah.
I press dodge. I press dodge.
Got some more incoming. Look out.
I press dodge.
Shit.
I'm seriously, I'm pressing the fucking button and it doesn't work.
Hold on.
You know what? This boss fight sucks. They just had to put zombies in there. You know, at least in the Resident Evil 4 boss fight with Salazar, you only ended up having to fight minions if you ever ended up in the bottom floor. Whereas this, no, just throw all of them at you. No bottom floor to be as a false safety net in case for you have to fight them away and then get back to where you need to go. No. Just fight all of them. Cause minion fights. When you can't come up with a good boss fight, just throw minions in there. Like, it's not even hard. It's like hard. It's not even hard, legitimately hard. It's just annoying. And of course, was that even? Yep, it hurt me. It hurt me.
you?
Carlos?
First aid spray.
Watch it, you've got company.
Of course I got company.
He's hiding behind tank one. Now, rip that fucker apart.
Why are there zombies? Why the fuck are there zombies? Minion boss fights are not fun. How many times must I tell people this? Capcom, id, literally everyone. Seriously, the only minion boss I can think of right now that I've honestly ever been fine with was the one against Boss Grimskull in Space Marine. And you know why? Because all the little minions he summons are easy to deal with.
Jill, is that you? Watch it, you've got company. He's hiding behind tank 7. Now, rip that fucker apart. Here comes some more. Number 5.
I pressed the button. It didn't work again. It's still not working. I'm pressing the dodge button. It still doesn't work. I'm pressing it. It doesn't work. Capcom did not design this like good at all.
Incoming. Behind you.
This is not harder. This is not hard. This is frustrating. Oh yeah, give us a dodge button that barely does anything. And if you so much as miss, you get hit 3 times in a row. Fuck you. I press the button. Again. It doesn't work. How is it that the fucking dodge button works better for Carlos, but for the main character, it doesn't work as intended at all? Like, I'm serious. I'm pressing it when I should to counter a move. I get hit anyway. What good is a fucking dodge button if it ends up being useless 99% less effectively than it should? And I love how it was so random where I shot 2 grenades into his face that one time and he keeled over, but now he doesn't do it.
Jill, is that you? Watch it, you've got company. He's hiding behind tank 7. I'll take it. Don't give up. I think he's on his last legs.
Yeah, if I could heal in time. I pressed dodge. Didn't work. What do you expect from me, game? What do you want?
Got some more incoming. On your left.
I pressed the button. I pressed the button again.
Here comes some more.
Hey Carlos, make yourself useful and shut him out.
Surprise, asshole.
Oh,
Jill! Here comes a crane. Use it to climb up.
Come on. Come on.
Jill, get back!
fuck you.
Now get on!
Oh, that was annoying.
I'm gonna melt this fucker into mush.
Yes, please. And good fucking riddance.
I'll meet you up ahead.
Nikolai, where did you go?
Oh. That was fucking terrible. Nemesis down. With an exclamation point and a question mark. Yeah, we know he's not gone. He's not gone. He's still roaming around.
I have to get that vaccine back.
He didn't come... He came back at the end of the game, so we all know... Whoever's played it knows that he's technically not dead. Okay. Well, I'm out of shotgun shells. Make use of them, I suppose. Yeah, I wailed at him so much that he finally quit. Weapon spec sheet. Redacted. Project title, ferromagnetic infantry use next generation railgun. Development code name, Finger. Chief development, Nest 2 lead researcher, Cornell Garner. Assisting developers, United States Army. Ammo caliber, 60 millimeter. Muzzle velocity, 6,000 ms. Project objective: suppression of new bioweapons in case of outbreak. Additional notes: extreme firepower provides a secondary benefit of completely obliterating the target, leaving no trace behind. User feedback: this thing is totally rad. Tyrants out of line, just give them the finger and problem solved. Okay. Packs of firepower we need. It would be even better if there was a way to control the output. Mobility may prove to be problematic in the field. Perhaps its platform could be refined. It requires multiple power sources, may be difficult to secure in practice. Could you consolidate to a single power source? Okay. Explosive A that I can't do anything with. Same with the gunpowder. Seriously, if the zombies had not gotten involved, I would probably have more of my attention focused on Nemesis. But because they show up and they'll surprisingly make like the Roadrunner at me right as I'm trying to nail his ass as he's down, it's like I gotta get rid of them, otherwise they're gonna hound me. And trust me, they're fast. They're faster than they look. Oh, great. Oh, look at that. Railgun. Foreshadowing. Yeah, foreshadowing in that notebook.
It's done. Give me the vaccine, you greedy son of a bitch.
No. You think money. I like that.
Duh.
We shall make ours an ongoing arrangement. Now drop the gun.
Uh-oh. Oh, no.
Have you ever seen anything so incredible? The data on this would be worth millions. But, you know how it is. City's about to explode, and you can't put a price on life. Good luck!
Nikolai!
Jill!
Go after Nikolai! He's got the vaccine!
What about you?
We're running out of time. I've got this.
I know you do.
Look, just so you know, this is the last fucking time.
Damn. Hey. That is big. That is very big. Hey. A railgun. Holy shit. She's gonna do it. Smile, you son of a bitch.
Cooldown in progress. Please reactivate power sources.
Damn, it needs power.
Push it in. Wait a minute. Right, blow those up. Okay, shoot the weak spot and it gets stunned.
Two power sources remaining. One power source remaining.
Go ahead! I'm gonna put you right back on your ass.
Ah. Okay, I actually like this one.
All power sources activated. Powering
You think
up.
I don't know how to fuck you up?
I love this girl. Damn it. Try again.
I am sick of your shit!
Do it. Put him down.
Come on! Next time, take the fucking hit!
Ah. Damn. She pulled a
Good
Doom.
riddance.
She pulled a Doom Slayer on him. Nemesis down in totality. She pulled a Doom Slayer. She pulled a Doom 2016 on him with the railgun. Oh my god. Okay, I admit, as simple as that was, I much prefer this over the last fight. Nice indeed. Oh my god. Yeah, that was simpler than the last one, but you know what? I'll take it. And from what I've read, from what I remember in the original version, Jill had to run around trying to get him to go in front of a stationary railgun instead of just taking it. And you know what? I have no complaints. You know what? After everything Jill goes through in both versions of Resident Evil 3, I say let her pick up the big fucking gun and go BFG on Nemesis. Oh, a lot of handguns that I didn't notice. So what, do we go through his corpse? I guess so. What's this? Suspicious contract memo. Contract overview. Received offer from client seeking to use our Raccoon City crisis to undermine and claim market share from Umbrella Corporation via a multi-pronged strategy. A. Sabotage. UC attempts to destroy evidence of outbreak to maximize culpability. B. Induce encounters between UC bioweapons and security forces / law enforcement and collect combat data to ascertain viability of tech. C. Report deployment of any new bioweapons, including Project Nemesis. See specifications. Remuneration exceeds current offer from UC and takes top priority. However, the client has engaged to a grace period before using any of the deliverables, so that payments from UC may also be collected. Okay. So yeah, I liked this boss better than the last one. The last one had no reason to be repeated as much as it did. And I find it ironic how for all the Mr. Cho, or whatever his name, one of the developers, how he was like, ditch the sexy outfit, it's not appropriate for Jill as a character. Well, what do you call this? You had her pick up a freaking BFG railgun. Like, if you ask me, something's lost in translation. But you know what? Fuck it. I like that. It kind of gave me a bit of a Dead Space boss feel, but then again, what came first? This? If anything, Dead Space was inspired by Resident Evil. In totality.
Can't let Nikolai get away with that vaccine. Carlos managed to stop him.
Okay. I don't see any notes.
I can still catch him.
No map info. Nothing here.
Oh no.
You're not going to stop. Promised you this, didn't I?
Oh.
Do you have any idea what you've just done?
Oh no, don't care. My client ordered me to reduce Umbrella to rubble.
10 minutes until missile
Ah.
impact.
The missile has launched. And that is my cue. Goodbye, Miss Valentine. Shame you didn't listen to me when you had the chance.
Get him, Carlos. No. Shoot him.
Shoot him!
I can't. I'll hit you.
Do it! You have to! There's no other way.
Shoot him in the head.
Take this shot!
Carlos!
I aimed for the head.
Hey. I told you I couldn't leave you in a Carlos's world.
I aimed for the head, damn it.
What about him?
Why'd you do it?
Yeah. Why?
There's a price tag for everything. Even letting the world burn.
Who are you working for?
I'll tell you, if you get me out of here. I'll pay you whatever you want. You're a fool! If I die, you'll never find out the truth.
I don't mind a little detective work.
I would take him if I were you. He's not laughing anymore, is he? Yeah, I would have taken him.
Jill, you alright?
There he is.
Bye-bye, Raccoon City. Nothing they could have done. The city was doomed.
It's finally over.
Nope, there's still like several more games after this. And more incoming.
I felt empty and cold as the heat from the blast washed over us. All this death wasn't caused by a monster-making virus. It was greed. Human greed. I decided then and there, the ashes of Raccoon City would be Umbrella's ashes too. I would end them, once and for all.
Indeed she would. She'd rendezvous at Chris Redfield in the Umbrella Chronicles game, or rail shooter, where they took the fight to Umbrella Europe's headquarters. And then around 2003, 2004-ish, Umbrella's dirty secrets finally came up and the company was officially shuttered. But, of course, you still had Albert Wesker doing stuff. You had other companies trying to fool around with Umbrella's stuff. And as of Resident Evil 7, which I haven't played, by the way, but might at one point, maybe, I'll think about it, Umbrella has been more or less reformed under different management, trying to clean up the mess of their forebears. Yeah, the mess that Oswald Spencer, I think that was his name, I believe. He was like one of the three founders of Umbrella, and he was like the only one left. Then Wesker killed him before the events of Resident Evil 5. And then you got a whole, and as of 7, you've got a whole bunch of other groups just doing shit, and whatever group Ada Wong works for, who was in the second game and in the fourth game. And yeah, there is a bit of a change with the ending. In the ending for the original game, Barry Burton showed up in that helicopter, who was, one of the main characters in the first game. But I guess they felt having him show up last minute didn't really fit, so I guess they were like, just leave the chopper there for Jill and Carlos. Me personally, I would have left Barry in there, at least for fan service, because then it would connect with the first game, which of course was remade years and years ago, before it was remade. So I would have left that. I mean, it's fine, but I would have left Barry in there to pick them up with the chopper. Oh, so that is it. That is Resident Evil 3 remake, Nemesis remake. So, what do I think of it? Well, for one thing, the gameplay is more or less the same as Resident Evil 2 Remake, but it still works. Oh, good soundtrack. So yeah, it still works. It's fun. The weapons feel good. They sound good. Traversing through Raccoon City and the other various parts out of it was good. If I had to lay a complaint with the gameplay, it's that the dodge button is schizophrenic. Like, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And I was especially having trouble with it in the second to last boss fight against Nemesis. They did not time this thing well. Like, I press it, it either doesn't work, or there's too much of a delay that I get hit anyway. Funny enough, I had way better luck doing it with Carlos, Chris Redfield punching the zombies and hunters than I did with Jill dodging. And I barely even used Jill's dodge mechanic in the game. Funny enough, they advertised that. You know what, with the whole... They really advertised that with the whole dodging and doing bullet time, but I barely ever used it, really. And the times where I really needed to use it, didn't work. So, I have mixed feelings about it. I do like how you can turn off the QuickTime events from being button mashy to hold, and honestly, I much prefer it that way. The visuals are still great. I mean, Capcom really nailed it out of the park with the RE engine. I do think it has some issues, especially with faces, because there was a point where Tyrell's lines did not get synced, and it looked like he was saying gibberish. And in-game, when the game's not in cutscenes, the mouths kind of move robotically, while Gears of War had the characters already speaking in natural movements, even in gameplay, way back in 2006. So there's still a couple of kinks to work out with it, but overall the game still looks great. The sound is very good too. The weapons, like I said, feel good. I love the music in this game. A lot of it is I recognize as being remixes of old Resident Evil tracks, especially 3. Yeah, like, I recognize this song, and it's very good. I like it. And I do like that they improved this from Resident Evil 2 Remake. Resident Evil 2 Remake had practically a non-existent soundtrack, and the only times you ever did have a soundtrack was when you put on the classic soundtrack feature. Otherwise, you got a fat load of nothing. As for the enemies and the boss fights, the enemy variety is more or less the same in amount as Resident Evil 2's, but at the same time, there were obviously some cuts. Don't worry, I'll get to that. Like birds. Like, yeah, honestly, who wants to fight birds in a Resident Evil game, or any game, really? Because they're super small, you gotta keep track of where they are. It's like, I have enough trouble with hunters and lickers, thank you very much. I don't need crows. Hell, dogs. You barely fight dogs in the whole game. They only showed up maybe twice. The beginning of the game and then in the warehouse. Most of the time you're fighting zombies. And I did appreciate that you actually fought lickers again. 2 of them, and the RPD as a nice little cameo. I appreciated that. As for Nemesis himself, I like what they did with him, but at the same time I wish some more could have been done with him. Like, when the game was first announced, I thought, they're gonna double down hard on like what they did with Mr. X, much to my complete fear, because I hated Mr. X in Resident Evil 2 Remake. Like, at first he was terrifying, but after a while, he just became a tedious frustration. And no matter where you went to get away from him, he would just be rubber banded to your position. You'd never be able to lose him. Whereas in this, I appreciate that he's much more spaced out. Wait a minute. She still has the vaccine. Okay, the cutscene quality is different. Okay, that really was not much of a final cutscene, really. Results. Game mode standard, 8 hours, 34 minutes, and 8 seconds. Time saved, 46. Deaths, 1. Yeah, it says 1, but that's because I restarted a lot of fights because I just was not satisfied. Yeah. So as I was saying, on the plus side, I appreciate that Nemesis is more spaced out than Mr. X. And I'll be frank, a lot of critics, especially on the internet, bemoan the game for Mr. X not being following you around like he was some freaking Terminator God mode villain Sue, where he'd be following you around inch by inch throughout the game. And they complain how he's nothing but set pieces and boss fights. Well, I got news for all of you. I don't know what game they remember, but here's a bit of a... From what I have remember seeing from many videos on the subject about Mr. X and whether or not he's in regards to being set pieces and quick times, here's the thing. He was always that way. He was always programmed to show up at certain points in the original game where you had to run away from him and then fight him, and so on and so forth. He really was not some autonomous God mode villain Sue that followed you around like the fucking Terminator. And I think the reason why a lot of people misremember him as such is because of the novelty of him at the time. You know, a big freaking organic Terminator monster that would follow the main character around throughout the story, pretty much being, you know, like their personal demon, more or less. And yeah, so it's like he really wasn't. He always was set pieces and boss fights, so I don't know what the complaint is in regards to that. You ask me, a broken wall there, a boss fight there, a chase here, doesn't really cancel out the fact that's exactly what Nemesis always was: a set pieces and boss fights. And that's to complain about that in this game. Well, congratulations. That's pretty much how he was back then. So I don't know what people are thinking about when they think this is a negative, because he was always like that in the original. Hell, if I'm wrong, I'll eat my words. In fact, I actually did find the original Resident Evil 3 Nemesis up for the GameCube, but I haven't gotten around to playing it because I've been just so busy with catching up with all the new stuff that I don't have time to go and look at the old stuff like I used to. But if I'm wrong, I'll eat crow. But from what I remember seeing, set pieces and boss fights is what Nemesis always was. So, unless I'm wrong, that's the opinion I'm sticking with. But I will agree that I do feel Nemesis, while I do like how spaced out he is, I do not think he's in the game in certain ways that I think he should have. For instance, his Phase 1 mode, which we're seeing right here in the menu, he was not in the game like this nearly enough as he should, and you'd wonder why not, because the original game was named after him. Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. And you only ever fight him in this form one time on the roof with the flamethrower, and you never fight him again like that afterwards. Like, he chases after you with the rocket launcher, and it's like, okay, do we fight him again with the rocket launcher or a Gatling gun or anything? No, we just run away from him and he's gone. We never see him like that ever again. And while I do like that we get more forms of Nemesis to fight him, they kind of backslide on it because instead of fighting one, like, I could understand this if it was like one form per boss fight, but they repeated the second form, like, again. The only difference being that his left arm is now a tentacle due to getting severed. I'm sorry, but it's still technically the same boss, just with a slightly different level mechanic. What with having to shoot the generators to get him to come knocking back down instead of using mines like in the first attempt, or, well, second attempt, if you get my drift. And it was very annoying, of course, due to those fucking zombies coming in. Seriously, I hate to repeat myself, but I hate minion fights, and I have no idea why developers keep falling back on them. They're not fun, they're not challenging, they're lazy and tedious as hell, and I fucking hate them. There's only like maybe a handful that I could say I liked, and this is not one of them. And of course I do like that they cap it off with the big uber monster fight at the end, where you have to shoot all the glowing bits to slow him down in order to, and then fire at him with the railgun, which of course was a twist in how it was in the original version, where you pretty much had to outwit him. But I didn't mind what they did here with the final form. If anything, if what I would have changed was the fact that we do not face him nearly enough in the first form with different weapons, and the fact that you end up fighting him in basically form 2 twice to an even annoying degree. So it's like, yeah, I would have preferred it had you fought him twice with the first form, with the differences being what weapon he has, and then of course go on to form 2 and then form 3 for the end of the game. That's what I would have done. But we got what we got. And even though Nemesis does not follow you around nearly as much as Mr. X did, and I'm glad that that's the case, they did compensate for it with the fact that he's faster than Mr. X, being able to leap across a neighborhood like Superman and try to slow you down with his hentai tentacles, and so on and so forth. But I do agree. I do think he should have been in this game a little more than he ultimately was. Not to mention, I'm very conflicted with his design. Like, I like the body bag that he's wearing, which kind of is wrapped around him, reminiscent of his trench coat. I like that. I like that little design difference. However, when it comes to his face, that's where I have problems with it. In fact, out of all the redesigns in Resident Evil 3 Remake, that is the one that I've warmed up to the least. I like the body bag biohazard aspect, as if to get the indication that he was wheeled out in an afternoon and they had to let him out with no preparation time. But the face just ruins it. They really should have gone back to the classic Nemesis look. They just went and redid it for kicks, as far as I'm concerned, and it does not look like Nemesis's face to me. Like, his face looks like it was dunked in hot melted cheese, then dunked in acid on top of said cheese, and then had a plastic bag melted all onto it, and it just looks hideous. You can barely even see the scar stitch on where his right eye would be, where they likely inserted the Nemesis parasite itself into his brain, because that was like one of the best. That was partially what made his design work. How he's like a Frankenstein experiment with like a lot of shit put into him, and he's just he's a freaking Terminator monster, more or less. But with that redesign, he looks less like a Frankensteinian bioweapon and more like some bum that got lost in a cheese factory and ended up tripping into a vat and died in it, and it just looks hideous. The only other thing I do like is the voice. I do really like Nemesis's new voice. It's darker, has a much greater growl to it than the old Nemesis voice. Had they just left the face alone, I would have been perfectly fine with it. In fact, there's mods on it for the PC that change it, and they look way better than this game's version does. And it saddens me that there's no way to change it even on the consoles, because you know how in Resident Evil 2 Remake, where if you chose the classic costumes for Claire and Leon, or just Claire, if you just played as her, Sherry's costume changed from the remake version to the to the Japanese sailor school uniform from the original version of the second game. I wish that even if they didn't redesign his look, left his design alone for the normal game, I would have at least appreciated it had the bonus costumes were to at least pick up the slack. You know, if you change Jill to her old costume, like I have on the game installed on the game, Nemesis's face would change too. But as far as I can tell, I don't think they did. From other videos I've seen, anyway, that doesn't seem to be the case. And so yeah, let me go through the pros. I like Nemesis, that Nemesis is spaced out. I like part of his redesign. I like his voice. I like that he's spaced out with boss fights. But I do wish that a little more was done with him in terms of how and we fought him in what form. And I did like the gameplay, except for the dodge mechanic, which I felt was not timed well. Carlos I actually surprisingly enjoyed playing as for the brief times we went. And the graphics, like I said, were good. The music and sound is good. And there's a decent amount of monster variety that is more or less similar to Resident Evil 2 Remake, but I do think it's a little bit off balance. Like, yeah, obviously you face the zombies, but surprisingly everything else is like either gone or not there as much. Like the dogs, you only face 4 of them total in this game, as opposed to Resident Evil 2 Remake, which had like maybe an entire area devoted to them. Again, I did like the Lickers having a cameo. The Hunters I actually really liked. You had to having to be careful not to get caught in their insta-kill move and to blow their heads off when you had them in sight. And of course the Hunter Gammas, simple but again variety, and all the monsters look disgusting as hell. So, and the RE engine really helps in that regard. And while I do not think Resident Evil 3 Remake is scary, I must admit there were a couple of times where I did jump from getting surprised, and also it is unsettling in a lot of areas. The hospital I felt was probably the most unsettling level in the whole thing, and there are times where I was like kind of creeped out and like, yeah, I don't want to be here. And of course the pale heads, which I honestly do not remember being a thing in even the remake or in the original game or in any of the past games. Maybe I'm remembering that wrong, but I don't know. And I did kind of find it a little annoying that you didn't really get the Magnum until late, but I guess it was perfectly timed at the same time, because it was not only great against Hunters, it's great against those things. If anything, you might as well just save the Magnum for the Hunters and the Paleheads and nothing else. Well, except for the final battle of Nemesis, anyway. So what do we get? Nemesis escape, blah, 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 blah. Shop has been unlocked. You can now purchase items from the shop, which is accessible via the main menu. Points used to unlock items can be earned by completely in-game challenges. In-game challenges. Just like in the last game, but this time there's credits attached to them. Now, while I do praise the game's visuals a lot, especially, you know, Raccoon City looked awesome. What little of it we went into. The lab looked great. Many of the vistas look great. This is a good-looking game. It really is. Nathaniel Bard. Kendo. The dogs who we only encountered twice. Dario Rosso. From the beginning of the game. Stars gear. Yeah, it's classic Jill. What the fuck is she doing? She looks like Gollum. Default Jill. Railgun Jill. And yeah, I'll play this game again with the classic Jill. I likely will not stream it, but I'll do it. Probably in downtime between Neo 2. Yeah. Classic. Let's see what we have for bonuses, because I have a bone to pick with this game when it comes to bonuses. Because I kind of well, I didn't really want to check at first, but I ended up seeing reviews where they said it anyway. So let's see. What do we got? Jill Stars gear costume. Coin. Seriously, what is with this shit? Manual compiled by Stars, close range combat knowledge, edited by Chris Redfield. Perfect dodge becomes easier to perform. How much you want to bet that is a bold fucking lie? Okay, and a lockpick, even though... Is it pretty much implying that we can just buy these tools and get them anyway instead of just fighting them in the game? Because that seems like a cheat. Hot dagger. Umbrella developed anti-bioweapon knife used by those who like to show off. Blade superheated, causing the target to burst into flame. The samurai edge. Jill's real gun. 15 shot capacity 9mm handgun. It's been customized according to Jill's personal specifications. Why weren't we using this and customizing it throughout the game? Instead, we get stuck with the generic ass Glock. Raiden. Energy weapon developed by Umbrella based on airborne electrical phenomena. Possesses great stopping power, but only when targeting enemy weak points. So what good is it then? The infinite mup handgun. So it's what? An infinite use handgun? Infinite bullets? I can afford it, but there's a lot of other stuff that I want to get. Infinite CQBR weapon. That is a lot of points. So I need to play the game in certain more ways in order to get any of this shit. The rocket launcher... that would make the game too easy, honestly. Yeah, yeah, that's what I thought. Look at this. This goes into my biggest complaint with Resident Evil 3 Remake. Oh, before I forget, yeah, the story. I like the story to Resident Evil 3 Remake. Yeah, it's mostly the same, I think, from the original, but there are noticeable differences. Like I said, Barry's not in the game at all at the last minute. Brad gets killed off differently than how he did in the original game. Instead of Nemesis, you know, stabbing him through the face with a tentacle, he just gets killed with generic zombies. And, obviously you had the redesigns and you also had how different ways how certain characters interacted, like Jill. I really liked how Jill was in this game. Another sticking point I hear people say is that the game swears too much. And I agree. I think the characters say the F-bomb a little too much here and there. But I'm honestly not terribly bothered by it, because you have a bunch of who are basically, well, in theory anyway, normal people put in a very shitty situation. So I would expect that people are gonna be like, oh my god, why are we B word, F word, so on and so forth, as opposed to DMC, Devil May Cry, that failed reboot by Ninja Theory, where the swearing was meant to be for style, but it came off as obnoxious. Whereas here, I honestly don't mind it as much. It's noticeable, but I can honestly buy the swearing here as opposed to that feckless game. And, yeah, I really liked Jill. I don't get the complaint with, like, I do agree. Her new default costume is boring. We've seen it too many times in other games, especially in the rebooted Tomb Raider games. Whereas it's like, yeah, the alternate costume is honestly the more stylish one that everyone remembers. So I can understand people being pissed about that. But as far as her overall design is concerned, the face, the body, and the hair and all that, I don't mind her redesign. Like, Claire Redfield's design was different too, and there are some aspects of it I would definitely change. Like, I would make her hair a little bit more red, like in the games and movies, the animated movies, not the god-awful live-action Paul West movies, Anderson movies. And, yeah, I agree. The Julia Voth model of Jill, which has been, toyed with over the years in other games, that is the most well-known look for Jill, and I do agree, head over heels, that is her definitive look. And if I were to bring this model of Jill back in another game, I would maybe blend the two together, because honestly, I don't mind this look. Like, there are admittedly some cutscenes where the model looks a little off, I admit. Hence the avant-garde nature of the mocap face blending techniques that Capcom's been using with, since our Resident Evil 7 2 remake and Devil May Cry 5. But when it works, it works. And I don't mind this new look very much. If anything, I can see them trying to... I prefer they go back to the Julia Voth one, but I can see them trying to blend the two together in some ways. Whereas I'm in the middle when it comes to others, like Claire's redesign, for instance, where I like both. I like the Degeneration look, the Resident Evil Degeneration movie look of Claire, and of course the Code Veronica and OG Resident Evil 2 look. But I like the remake version too. So it's like, pick your poison, pretty much. I don't have a problem with how Jill looks. Again, I've seen much, much worse looking characters in other games, and I can unapologetically name them and tell you, yeah, this is fine compared to what we've had in other games. And I've already mentioned a certain game. But and Carlos, yeah, Carlos I liked that they he's not really one of those characters that many people remember him well, because he was just kind of there, kind of that snarky Hispanic guy, more or less. But I like what they did with him. I wouldn't say Carlos is the best, most interesting character in the world, but I don't mind what they did with him. His design did admittedly throw me off at first when I first saw the reveal. I called him John Wick with a perm, but I got used to it. He's not too bad. And if anything, he's like one of a handful of characters that I think should come back in another game. Him, Billy Cohen, Sheva, Helena, There's like so many others, really. Sherry Birkin, adult Sherry Birkin, bring her back. Like, characters that are in 5 and 6, you know, I can understand them being given another chance, like Josh and Helena and Sheva, and Jake Mueller. Because, let's be honest, Resident Evil 6 was a god-awful game. That game did none of those characters any favors. So I can see any number of them coming back in some way, shape, or form, along with the main characters. Jill hasn't started in a game since Revelations, and Revelations was a spin-off game. Same with Claire. Chris and Leon have both been in 5 and 6 at this point. So it's like, yeah, and Chris even showed up at the end of 7 and was the starring character in one of the expansions taking place afterwards of 7. So, if anything, I think we can give Mr. Redfield a break for a while. Same with Leon. And of course the other characters, Mikhail and Nikolai, I surprisingly bought them as villains. Well, as characters. Well, Mikhail, he wasn't a villain. You get my point, really. A lot of the characters' dialogue and characterization, in a lot of ways, nicely modernized. I liked them. Well, mostly, anyway. Now comes the biggest issue I have with Resident Evil 7 Remake. One that I've, of course, pointed out, and which other people have pointed out, and this is a criticism I cannot disagree with any of them on. I can disagree with them as to how Nemesis is portrayed and handled between both games, and among other things, but this is where I most definitely agree. The biggest problem with Resident Evil 3 Remake is that they cut out too much content from the original game. Seriously, this was the problem I had the biggest issue with in Resident Evil 2 Remake. In Resident Evil 2, they cut out the factory. They cut out the training facility. They dumbed down the alligator into being a boss fight where there was a puzzle behind it. You had to outwit him and get him to chomp down on explosive containers in order to kill it. Whereas in that game, in the remake, they pretty much turned him into the boulders from Resident Evil 4, where all you did was just run away from him, and that was it. The only difference being that you of course blew it up at the end of it, but running away from a giant monster only to then kill it, that is not a boss fight, in my opinion. That is just a glorified QuickTime event. I hated it when Dead Space 2 did it, where they made pretty much all of the bosses in that game being something that you wanted to fight, perhaps dreaded to, but still fought them, into being just a cheap QuickTime event where you just shot out a weak point or explosive barrel and that was it. And they did it with the Gator in Resident Evil 2. In Resident Evil 3 Remake, they completely doubled down on it. Where it's like, there's not 1 or 2 areas cut. There's 3 cut. The dead factory for the end of the game. The waste disposal area, like I mentioned. What were the other 2? The Raccoon City Park, where you fought the Gravedigger worm. I would have been upset had they just made the Gravedigger no different from the alligator, but I would have at least appreciated he was at least mentioned or brought up. I would have been mad about it, but at least I would have been like, okay, he's in the game. I can kind of lay a point off here, give a point there. But nope, no worm boss in this game. And the clock tower, the clock tower axed. You just fight Nemesis in Form 2 in front of it. You never go in there and do the clock tower puzzle. So yeah, 3 whole areas plus their respective puzzles. The fountain puzzle, The Clockwork Tower puzzle, I can understand trimming the fat and getting rid of a puzzle or enemy nobody likes. Like, I heard there was a chemistry puzzle in this game that nobody liked, and they got rid of it, thank God. But there's trimming fat, and then there's committing digital anorexia, and that's what it feels like. Like at least half the game has been chopped out to meet a deadline. Which kind of goes into a problem with a bone to pick I have with a lot of critics when it comes to Resident Evil 2 Remake. Like, I see a lot of reviews where they sing Resident Evil 2 Remakes' praise to high heaven, but then they completely ignore the fact that Resident Evil 2 Remake cut out a lot of shit, inexcusably so, but then they lay that chopping block onto Resident Evil 3 Remake, and I'm like, okay, consistency please. Why are you calling this game out when you didn't call it out the first time? If anything, you kind of gave Capcom a little bit of a way out to kind of go through with it because you failed to bring it up the first time. So it's like, I feel as much as I liked Resident Evil 2 Remake, I feel that game gets overpraised while this game gets guillotined on the case of cut content when both of them are equally guilty of it. However, at the same time, I find it hard to feel sorry for Resident Evil 3 Remake at the same time because Capcom doubled down on cutting everything out. Almost everything out. At least that's what it feels like. Like I said, you don't face Nemesis nearly as much as in the first form as he is. There's moments, even in Raccoon City, like the gas station, which aren't there. The puzzles I have mentioned are gone. Half the locations in the game are gone. Yes, I know, Resident Evil 3 Remake and its predecessor... You know, I agree. Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, the original, and its predecessor, 2, was the original version of 2, were short games. Of course, the first 3 Resident Evil games were short. That's a fact at this point. It's like saying water's wet. But I'm not even complaining about length. I mean, yeah, you could, especially in today's day and age of games. But I think the main reason why the game feels short, as short as it is for a lot of people, is because Capcom cut away way too many things. Way more than Resident Evil 2 Remake. And it's reflected not just in the general game itself, but even in the bonus items. Like, look at this. Resident Evil 3 Nemesis had like a huge closet full of bonus costumes. There was like 10 of them. You had the RPD costume here. You had the Dino Crisis suit that Regina wore in the Dino Crisis games, which really needs a remake, by the way, and a sequel. Capcom, wink wink, where is it? You had a sexy biker outfit, which looked cool. You had a lawyer outfit, a generic policewoman outfit, and a bunch of others. But what do we get here? We just get a bunch of freaking coins that just make the game easier. That all costs points, really. And stuff that you will find in the game anyway, like the bolt cutters and the lockpicks. It's like, okay, why even play the game if you can just buy them from the bonus menu anyway? I mean, I can understand maybe a bonus weapon like the infinite ammo gun or rifle. I can understand the infinite ammo handgun or a rifle, or this. Or even the hot knife or samurai edge, but seriously, what is with these coins and having to buy and being able to buy the stuff that you will find anyway in the base game? That's not good. That's not good game design. All those costumes gone. Just the RPD Stars outfit. Like where is everything? Like Resident Evil 2 Remake wasn't perfect. It hardly was. But at the very least, there was still stuff to unlock that warranted going back many times over. Even if the game... But even if the game did, I do feel ages a bit, considering the repetitiveness of Mr. X and the fact that Capcom did way too hard trying to fold the game's storylines into each other, to the point that it pretty much felt like the same game regardless of how you played. Here, this game doesn't have that luxury. One costume, couple of weapons, stuff that you're gonna find in the game anyway, and ridiculous coins to make the game easier. It's like, no, this is not acceptable. You robbed us of what was in the original game, and we're supposed to accept that? It's like, yeah, I heard that the game was being developed with a B team at the same time as Resident Evil 2 Remake, but if you ask me, this should have been with the A team. Or at the very least, given the B team more time and resources to finish it. And I guarantee... And you know what? I could be wrong. But you know what? I guarantee you a huge reason why Resident Evil 2 Remake suffers in content the way it is because they added in that stupidly retarded Left 4 Dead mode, Resistance. And I knew something was wrong the first time because Resident Evil Resistance was revealed first before Resident Evil 3 Remake. It wasn't even that long ago. I remember the reveals. They revealed that before they revealed the game we all wanted, which should have been the big red flag. So they introduced a multiplayer game that no one's gonna play, and they tacked it on to the game we all were gonna play. So it's like, yeah, I could be wrong, but considering how many years it's been where developers shortchange the parts of a game we all like and want in order to fit in a multiplayer mode that does nobody favors, I honestly would not be surprised if that really was the case. Like, yeah, I've heard the argument, there was tech troubles, maybe that was it. But considering the record of games that were supposed to be good, but got harmed because a multiplayer mode was latched onto it, I would not be surprised if that was the case regardless. And, yeah, half the original content being chopped away, the bonuses being chopped away. It's like, I can understand why people are pissed at this being for $60. If anything, this should be a $30 to $40 game. And, you know what? I have the sneaking suspicion as to why Capcom bunched Resident Evil Resistance with Resident Evil 3. Like, because Capcom has tried chasing trends with multiplayer with Resident Evil when it comes to multiplayer. Like, the first two Resident Evil games I can distinctly remember it being multiplayer, but are actually liked by everyone, are the Outbreak games. Outbreak 1 and Outbreak 2, or File 2 as it's technically called. And those were co-op Resident Evil games. You could play them, at least the first one, with one person, with just yourself. But it was a surprisingly rewarding experience being able to do it with your friends. I, of course, never played the game, but I've seen reviews praising it for it. And not to mention, those are the only two Resident Evil games with co-op multiplayer that I've seen that actually look like genuine Resident Evil games. Old school Resident Evil games, but still good Resident Evil games all the same. Whereas Capcom has stopped doing that. They've been tracing trends ever since. There was Resident Evil Operation Raccoon City, released way back, like, long ago. It actually sold well, but was a critical bomb, and as far as I know, no one plays it. No one ever talks about it anymore. It, like, came and went. Like, Raccoon City, I don't hear anyone ever talk about it. It's like, it was a thing, and then it disappeared after a while. No one talks about it. Then Capcom tried again, and so yeah, Raccoon City was basically the Call of Duty, was basically the Gears of War game that was type game they wanted to chase the Gears crowd with. Then they went and started chasing after the Call of Duty crowd with Umbrella Corps, which nobody bought, and it was a critical failure. And they went and tried again with Resistance, which, from what I've seen of it, is a Left 4 Dead knockoff with that isometric multiplayer, which ever since Evolve came around has been like the big thing a lot of developers want to chase after, and much to the game's everlasting detriment. So, yeah, and I guarantee you, had Resident Evil Resistance been released by itself, under a separate team, a C team, or at the very least outsourced elsewhere, completely away from everyone else from the in-house studios, I guarantee you, Resistance either would have been ignored completely by everyone, or maybe looked at for maybe a month and then everyone stopped talking about it. I highly doubt it would have made us money. Even if it did, I guarantee it would have just quietly disappeared within a month after release. So you know what I think Capcom did? I think Capcom cheated. They cheated because they knew Resistance probably would not sell well under its own merits. And so what did they do? They like a Las Plagas parasite, they lashed it onto Resident Evil 3 Remake, and in so doing, took away precious time and resources. Hence why the game has so much less content than it is. I'm not even talking about just game length. There's just less content here than even RE2 Remake, quite frankly. Hell, there isn't even Mercenaries mode, which, funny enough, Mercenaries mode, Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, was where Mercenaries first started, where you pretty much picked as a character from the game and you ran around killing zombies and monsters in an arena, more or less. And it's been a mode that has been in a lot of games since. 4 had it, 5 had it, I'm pretty sure 6 also had it. I don't know if 7 had it, but you get my drift. We have a game here that is a remake of a game that a lot of people like, some don't, but acknowledge its importance regardless. And it doesn't even have the bonus mode that a lot of people remember this game for starting in the first place. Not to mention the complete gashing of bonus content, unlockable bonus content. So yeah, it's like Resident Evil 3 Remake, it has a lot of good things about it. Like I said, the gameplay, the soundtrack, the atmosphere. It's not scary, but it is unsettling. And the stuff that, pretty much all the stuff that the game does well. It does well enough. But the problem is that there's just not enough of it. More missing levels, more missing bosses. I can understand cutting away one enemy and puzzle nobody liked, like the chemistry puzzle and the birds. But once you start pretty much taking away half the game, it's like, I'm sorry, you've lost me at this point. You're not even remaking the original game at this point. You're just making a half-cut version of it, and then you went and replaced it with a multiplayer mode that barely any of us are gonna pay attention to. I most certainly am not gonna pay attention to it. Hell, they even give you Resistance is not even in the main menu of Resident Evil 3. It's actually a separate file, and I am not ever gonna install it. I have no desire to. I have no inclination to ever play RE Resistance. It's just a wart in the game disc that reminds me of what could have been. Like, this game could have been far, like, I want to love this game. I really do, and I did enjoy my time with it. But because Capcom took a hatchet to half of what existed and gave us virtually nothing to balance it out is what really upsets me about it. There's a great game buried in here, a greater game than what we ultimately ended up with. But because so much was cut to fit in a multiplayer mode that nobody asked for, I greatly fear this game's lifespan. I do not see it lasting nearly as much in people's discs, PlayStation or Xbox or even PC disc players than they did Resident Evil 2 Remake, because too much was just done away with. The only way I can honestly see this game being salvaged is if Capcom did like free DLCs of more costumes, or to that extent, or hell, to go back and do a definitive edition. If you ask me, Resident Evil 2 Remake and this game sorely needed at this point, because too much from both games were cut to the point where it's like there's less reason to go back. And if any games definitely need that, it's definitely these two. And this game especially sorely needs it, because I do not see this game having a very long shelf life as a result of there being little to do. And no, I do not count speed runs in this game as far as bonus stuff to do. I never liked it in the past games. I never considered speedrunning to be something worth doing for my time, especially in a survival horror game where the whole point is just to take your time with the game and, you know, be laser focused on your environment. I don't play these games to be the fucking roadrunner. So, but if you're into that, into speedrunning games, that's fine. That's your prerogative. I have no problems with you do that. I just think that Capcom also relies on that way too heavily for people to replay the games, when really, what point is there when half the game has been chopped away, like I said. So, with that said, do I think Resident Evil 3 Remake is worth $60? Absolutely fucking not. If $40 at minimum, if I'm being generous, as it is right now. And as it is right now, I most definitely agree it is not worth the full price. Like the last game, I'd argue, in hindsight, probably wasn't either, but there was still a lot of stuff to go along with it. So unless Capcom actually does start putting on the moves, I don't see this game having a very long time of glory, if I may be perfectly freaking honest. So if I had to give, if I had to give a score, I'd say Resident Evil 2 Remake, I'd give it maybe an 8 or a 9. Whereas this, I'd probably give like maybe a 7, 7.5. It's a good game. It really is. It has a lot of good things about it, but at the same time, there's one too many things that hold it back considerably. And I gotta agree with a lot of people when they compare and contrast to the old game. The old game just had far more stuff to it. How ironic is it that the remake of the very first Resident Evil, the game that still was stuck with the tank controls, has more content than both the remakes of this and 2. Because in Resident Evil 1 Remake, even though the gameplay was pretty much the same, with the only difference being in the graphics and visuals and cutscenes and voice acting, they still made up for it and everything else, what with new rooms, new puzzles, new enemies, like the Crimson Heads, like I mentioned earlier. There was just in new bosses, there was just a lot more added to what was already a legendary game. Resident Evil 2 Remake and 3 Remake, on the other hand, have the superior gameplay of today, and let's be honest, the tank control I don't like, and let's be honest, who honestly wants the tank controls back? Like I say, let that antiquated shit go away. But I at the very least have respect for that because that game didn't take anything away, it just added more to what was already there. I do think the first game and Zero warrant an overhaul with the modern controls. But if they're just gonna cut away more shit that already works, then why even bother? Just leave them the way they are. Like, I would love Dino Crisis 1 to get remastered. That game deserves it. It deserves a proper sequel too while we're at it. But at this point, after these two games, I'm at a crossroads where it's like, okay, if they remake them, how much are they going to cut away this time? Because if they're just going to cut away more than they actually add, then what is even the point? You know what I mean? That's where I'm worried. So if they redo Code Veronica next, you know, how much are we getting versus what's being taken out? That's what I'm frightened of at this point. And so it's like, yeah, Resident Evil 2, you know, the original game has more content despite the old gameplay, but then you look at 2 and 3 remake and it's like, okay, you changed the gameplay, but you took out more than actually gave along with it. So it's disgustingly ironic, honestly. And if you ask me, both this and the last remake deserve an overhaul in regards to what's in there. You know, put back in what was taken out, and the stuff we didn't like, either leave out or redo them. And now I hear rumors of Resident Evil 4 being remade, and you know what I say to that? No. Resident Evil 4 is fine as it is. It holds up still. It's been re-released like 100 times at this point. And it still plays well today like it did back then. There's really no reason to remake it. Code Veronica, and to an extent the first game and Zero deserve it, just so we can play the game with modern controls. So if any games were to be remade, that would be those. Leave 4 alone. 4 doesn't need it. Not now, not likely for a long time to come. So anyway, an overview. What Resident Evil 3 Remake does well, it does about as well as the remake for the second game, and I applaud it for it. But because Capcom doubled down on removing even more shit from the last, removing more shit here, compared to they did the last game, it's hard for me to give this game a full $60 recommendation. And there's a great game buried in here, but it's been chopped into pieces, all to make room for a Left 4 Dead knockoff game nobody's ever gonna play. And even if they do, they certainly aren't gonna remember it a month from now. So, all the same, I do say, if you never played Resident Evil 3, the original version, like me, but you wanted to at least get a semblance of it in a modern game with modern gameplay and visuals, yes, I do recommend Resident Evil 3 Remake. Just not right now at the current price. Wait for a price drop to like $40, $30 to $40 minimum before pinching money out to do it. The only reason I got it was because I ended up having a gift card lying around that I went and traded for Best Buy, so I was able to pay the game at a cheaper price. Because originally I was not gonna do it. I was gonna wait for a price and get it later. But if it weren't for this freaking quarantine happening, thanks to you know, the commie virus, you know, I figured, fuck it, what the hell? I got a gift card laying around that's gonna expire if I don't use it. So I went and used it, and boom, here's the game. So I went and did this, not just for me, but for you people. And yeah, I like it. There's a good number of things to like about it. But for the price tag that it has right now, no. Just wait. Unless you have a gift card lying around where you can get it like I did, don't do it. Just wait for a price to drop. And if Capcom adds anything to the game that to make it better than it really should be. So, as it is, between the two games, Resident Evil 2 Remake is still the better one, which I hate to admit because of how I complained about it being overpraised. But that's mostly because it just had a little bit more to it, whereas this game does not. And the bonuses most especially do not help. Or lack of proper bonuses, anyway. So, I like both of them. I do think the second game's remake is still objectively better. I do think that the second game was also a scarier game as well. Like, Resident Evil 3 does get criticized for being basically the start of when the franchise started dabbling into action horror. And then, well, the series kind of more or less found itself in the mess it has been in recent years, where 5 and 6 kind of just destroyed what sense of genuine terror and horror the games had. Even 4, despite its increased action, still had unsettling amounts of scares and atmosphere to it. So, honestly, if you didn't like how action-heavy the original version of 3 was, you're probably not going to like the remake either. Honestly, depending on how you feel about 3's remake, also kind of depends on how you felt about the original too. But it's still dripping with atmosphere regardless. It's just a shame that so much was cut from it, and that's what sucks about it ultimately. So I did like it, I enjoyed it, but there's a way better game buried somewhere that we should have gotten instead of a pointless multiplayer mode shoved onto it. So get it when a price drops, especially if you want to get into the franchise like I've been trying to do over the years. But don't get it at full price. Just wait unless you have a gift card, then get it. If not, wait for the price drop and then go from there. And dear God, I hope Capcom learns this lesson, because much as I hated how overpraised Resident Evil 2 is, I hope this gives Capcom the necessary wake-up call with their remakes. If you're not gonna, I hope this gives them the necessary wake-up call that they need. If you're going to remake a game, especially one that everyone liked, especially when it is a remake by your own admission, don't cut away half the game. Oh, and speaking of, I just remembered, there was a big shtick, like barely even a month before the game released, where Capcom was boasting about how Raccoon City was much larger and expansive, and how you could meet side characters and do side quests for them. This was something they were boasting about in interviews before the game was released a month later. Yeah, about that. None of that is in the damn game. There's no side quests, there's no side characters, nothing. All that shit they were talking about a month before the game's release, nowhere, non-existent. So, it leads me to wonder what game they were even marketing at this point. It reminds me of Mass Effect 3 all over again. BioWare talked about and hyped to the moon so many things that you would be able to do in Mass Effect 3. Yeah, none of it was there. So it's disappointing. It's like deja vu all over again with how much crap developers can get away with. Tell us what we're gonna get, and then game comes out and we're like, where's the stuff? I'm like it's like Will Smith in that one clip of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. He's like, where are the video games? That's pretty much the situation in both accounts. So yeah, it is disappointing. There's a better game in there somewhere. There was a better game we almost had. But, it is what it is, I suppose. So, with that said, I do like the game, like I said, but we should have gotten something better than what we ultimately did. There's still good stuff about it. I enjoyed the game, but it does equally piss me off with how much stuff was cut away and how much there almost was. So maybe in the future, maybe Capcom will. Maybe in the future they'll do like definitive editions for 2 and 3. I don't know. We'll see. I just hope that with the amount of flack that they're getting, Capcom learns their lesson and actually does better. And, you know, especially if they end up doing remakes for the other games that were still in the old tank control gameplay. So that was a very long rant review. But it's like I think I'm done, but then I remember something else wrong, and it's like I gotta point it out. You know what I mean? But yeah, this is why I'm not a professional reviewer or game player. So on that pretty frustrating note, that's pretty much it for Resident Evil 3 Remake. If anything ever does come of the game again, maybe I'll check it out. In fact, I did say I was gonna go back on 2 Remake and play the 4th Survivor mode and the other 3 characters, which I never did really because, well, shit happened, and I don't know. I think I'm gonna take back that goal because honestly, I don't think I'm ever gonna do that. You know, the 4th Survivor or any of that. So that'll do it for this. I will get back on Neo 2, and of course, once I finish that, I'll go and do whatever else I have on my shelf. So that's it for Resident Evil 3 Remake. It's a good game, but it is a disappointing one at the same time. That could have been so much better, but wait for a price drop and then get it if you're interested. At the moment, I just can't recommend it as it is right now, but who knows? Maybe something will change. Who knows? So that's it for this very long, ranty review. Oh my god. And yeah, I got nothing. So that'll do it. Hope you enjoyed the playthrough, despite me complaining here and there. And I'll see y'all guys back again on Neo 2. And we'll resume the samurai demon slaying on that game. So that's it for the remake of Nemesis. I'll see y'all guys later. Peace out.